We move forward to our first session, and to chair this session, as we have Mr. Som Mittal, and we have our speaker, Dr. Sharma. Just to give you a little intro about Mr. Som Mittal, who actually needs no introduction, I'm sure. Very familiar person with CAHO as well as CAHOTECH. We have heard him, his wonderful talks. Mr. Som Mittal is the former chairman and president of NASSCOM, and he has been part of the technology industry for over 30 years. And he's closely associated with the social sector, health sector, and education, and he chairs leading NGOs like the NCPDP, Museum of Art and Photography, and he's also on the board of GMR Varalakshmi Foundation, and he's currently chairing the chair for the Patient Safety Initiative of CAHO. The next speaker for today is Dr. S Sharma. Again, a little bit about him. He is the CEO of the National Health Authority, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and he has been the former chairman of the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, TRAI. He's been an IAS officer with a distinguished career in the Government of India and state governments. He's presently serving as the Chief Executive Officer, as mentioned, for managing the Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana and the National Digital Health Mission. I hand over to Mr. Som Mittal to take over the next session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne. Good afternoon. And thank you, Sharmaji, for being here. I know how tight your time schedules are, but really appreciate your being here, and Joy for that lovely introduction. This is CAHOTECH's sixth edition, and every time we find that from the previous one, we have moved on. But I must say that from the previous one till now, I think we have made big strides. And that happened because pandemic, it's an irony, helped us connect healthcare and technology at an accelerated pace. The need and conditions created by the pandemic made societies across the world adopt telemedicine, remote monitoring, vaccine management, contact tracing, and of course, creating awareness across wide spreads of the whole nation, or whole world. All this happened without actually putting up very formal structures, though later, as I'm sure Mr. Sharma would explain, formal structures came in, and I think this phase has been an amazing one itself. Both citizens and physicians and healthcare providers all became comfortable with digital access, and also now know that technology can help address one of India's most critical need, which is of safe and affordable healthcare, which is accessible to them and all. We must further this momentum and make most of the momentum that has been built up. Over the years, tech companies, startups have developed many advanced solutions. Healthcare providers also have been embracing technology and have been adopting digital innovations, but we have a long way to go. We cannot do this by a single agency. We need government, tech companies, regulators, healthcare, startups, all to come. And I think that's the focus of the day's deliberations. We have many obstacles to overcome, and we will. As Joy mentioned, today's session are really about looking at how we're going to scale up all the efforts that have been done. First, we will have, of course, Sharmaji talked about the various government initiatives. Government is a big driver. Second, we will have the startup innovators who are saying, what have they made? What are the learnings? And third, we will have perspectives from hospitals. You'll be very happy to know that we also had many hospitals talk about the innovations they have made, and we will have some of those innovations as well being discussed today. Government is not a policymaker alone. It's not a regulator alone. It is the largest provider of healthcare today in the country. And who better than Sharmaji to come and share some of the things that the government is doing? While the introduction was made by Anne, I must just say that he's the right man at the right place at the right time. Having worked with him earlier, I know that beyond being he's an amazing mix of an administrator, a technology person, but more importantly, a super executor. He was the leader with Nandan in implementing Aadhaar and taking it to scale. And we have seen what has happened. And And interestingly, post that, he was also the Secretary for IT. And then as DRAI, he knows what connectivity means to citizens and to healthcare providers. Sharmaji, delighted to have you with us and look forward to your, sharing your perspectives on where we are. And more importantly, do share with us as to how the healthcare sector can engage with you. We have close to 800 people who have registered and many more here. And your talk is going to be available for many more. So look forward, sir. Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mittal, and good afternoon to you all. First of all, I must thank the organizers of CAHOTECH. The 6th edition of this is being done in the 3 days workshop seminars starting today. And I'm really privileged to be a part of this conference. Mr. Joy Chakravarti gave the brief introduction as to how this seminar is going to play out and what kind of issues are going to be discussed. And of course, Mr. Mittal gave a very, very sort of generous introduction of me in the process. I would say that in the next 20-25 minutes, I would like to share with you what the technology is, how technology is going to play a very pivotal role in enabling some of the difficult and in solving some of the most difficult problems which our country faces. So that's the broad topic which I'm going to talk about. Once again, thank you for inviting me to this conference. Firstly, let me say that these have been, obviously, all of us agree that these have been extremely difficult times for us and for the world as such. And these are, times which have brought too much of pain to the society, too much of, sort of anguish in all of us. And I think all of us have in the past few months or about a year and a half, we have lost somebody who is our loved one, and we have suffered so much. But there is a positive side to every tragedy, every difficult time. And as Mr. Mittal very rightly mentioned, one of the outcomes of this, or one of the positive impacts of this crisis, has been the realization that technology can deliver many things, and the fact that many of us have become quite adept in using technology. This conference itself is an example of it. We are all sitting at our different places, and still we are together on this virtual platform. One cannot imagine. Normally this platform will take place in some room or some hall somewhere in some beautiful surroundings, and everybody would come together. We'll all laugh together, have a cup of tea together, and sort of mix and mingle together. Today we are all sitting in our spaces and then trying, and we have all become very comfortable on this screen part also. Initially there were some hesitations. It looked as if I'm speaking before a camera. Nobody is in front of me, and still I am able to sort of skip. It was very unnatural. But now slowly it has become natural. In the health sector per se, there have been a lot of innovations, if I may say so. The number of teleconsultations in our country have gone up manyfold. Not only teleconsultations, even the WhatsApp calls, video calls to the doctors during these times have increased. The digital delivery of medicines has accelerated. A lot of technologies have come which require that you don't have to go out of the house and still you can do your job. So I think in a way this has been an extremely positive development. And during this period only, if you recall, last year, August 2020, our Honorable Prime Minister had announced on 15th of August a program called National Digital Health Mission, whereby the whole idea was to create a digital grid digital grid so as to deliver many of the health-related services. So that is the program which he had announced. And of course, I was a part of that, overall development of the program, because The government had made me the chairperson of a group which is relating to the sort of development of platforms, and there were many known personalities on that platform, that committee, and we came up with a number of ideas, which is one of them was e-passes, digital e-passes, how people can move from one area to another area, and how at that time there were a lot of restrictions on movement. And the other idea was, how do we go about teleconsultation? And from that idea emerged this whole issue of a digital health mission, and I was lucky to be a part of it. Little did I realize at that point in time that I will become the chief executive officer of an authority which is implementing that program. So I am also extremely lucky in that sense. I had retired from TRAI last September, and I was sort of spending that retired life. Of course, after a couple of months, you become a little restless also. So that had happened to me, but I think in the right time, the Honorable Prime Minister gave me this opportunity to sort of head this organization. And then ultimately the whole idea of this is that one question which one may ask is, why do you think that India is in a right condition or right this is a good appropriate technology for India to develop? Why can't other countries develop similar kind of digital health missions or digital platforms for delivering health services? So that's one question which you may ask. And of course, there will be, that's one thing which I'm going to respond, which is, why do we think that we in India will be able to deliver this mission and this technology? So one is, let me begin that India in the past, about a decade or so, has been developing and deploying a number of technologies at a very large scale. So first of all, scalability of technologies has been one of the core strengths of our country, because we are 1 billion plus people, and obviously if we do something, obviously that has got to be scalable. So that's one very important aspect. So we have delivered a number of such digital rails or digital infrastructure or digital artifacts in the last about 7-8 years, and these have become very important enablers of service delivery. So one of them obviously is Aadhaar, the digital identity system. Now the people initially thought that Aadhaar is just like another identity system, which will just enumerate people and say, oh, this is Mr. Som Mittal, this is S Sharma. But that's not what we did. We not only created a unique identity for each person, identity number for each person, we also provided what is called an authentication service, which means you can remotely establish that you are who you claim to be. And that's a very fundamentally different aspect of this digital identity. This digital identity is foundational. It is bereft of eligibility. We are just proving that this is X is X. We are not, sort of saying that X is authorized to do something or he is eligible to do something. And this foundational identity is now pluggable into any transaction. And as you all know, every transaction has two aspects. One is authentication, another is authorization. Authentication is the first part where you prove that you are the right person, and authorization is that part which says, yes, you are authorized to conduct a transaction. So suppose you go to a banking site, you first do username and password, which basically establishes that you are the authenticated person, and then you are able to do transactions in your account. So what we did was we provided that common pluggable problem we solved, which is required for every domain. And today we have those digital identity being used in a vigorous manner, in a big manner. So for example, we have thus far done 5,700 billion authentications. which means about 5,700 crore authentication transactions have taken place. Similarly, we developed a number of other products on top of that identity, which is electronic KYC, which means you can do a paperless transaction where you can prove, you can download your digital identity papers digitally signed and share with anybody in a cyberspace. So that's another artifact which we created. We also created digital signatures on demand, which means that you don't have to have any dongle to plug into your computer. You can just, proving your identity, that is authenticating the digital signature key pair, can be downloaded and you can sign any document. Similarly, we created a digital locker, which is essentially a private space for every citizen on a public cloud. Now, that's very, very important because you can now store your document. It is not only like a Dropbox, which many of us may be using, but you can also digitally sign the document and share these documents. So that's another very important part which we created. So essentially, and all this happened, by the way, under the Prime Minister's Digital India program. In 2014, in the month of May, when the Honorable Prime Minister took charge of the country, at that time, I happened to be the Secretary of the Information Technology Department. And, we presented before him and he said, yes, let's do Aadhaar, let's continue with Aadhaar. And thereafter, we developed a number of these products. So we developed the digital locker, we developed e-sign, as we call it. We developed the authentication, of course, was there, electronic KYC. And what we also developed is very fundamental. This is the digital consent artifact, which means I can actually give digital consent to share my data to kind of any other consent you want. So it's like a digital token, which is a verifiable token. Now, it's very important for transactions in a digital world. Suppose I want to share my data with a doctor. I don't have to, give an affidavit in writing saying that now I'm ready to share my data. What I'll do is I can now issue a digital consent, digital token, which actually will be able to produce or will be able to share my document with the doctor. So these are all, utilities which are going to kind of become available for any architecture which you build. This we call the base utilities. These base utilities are unique to India. Nobody in the world has got such a digital identity which is authenticable. By the way, it is not a smart card. We said it's just a number. So basically, it's an online digital identity. We don't need any number. You don't even need to have written down any number. You just need to remember a number and you can put it in your phone also, like a 12-digit random number, and you can say, this is my Aadhaar number. So this is the miracle. This is the kind of artifact which India has created. One more thing I would like to mention. One more thing is the payment, gateway, payment transaction. Now, India has developed unified payment interface. This essentially, was launched by the Prime Minister in December of 2016. So in a 4.5 years journey, it has now grown to 3 billion transactions a month. 3 billion transactions a month, which is actually more than the debit card and credit card transaction put together. Much, much more, many times more. Now, all these debit cards and credit cards have been in existence in the last 40 years. What they have not been able to do in the last 40 years, UPI has done in a 4.5 years. This is also some of the, one of the bright ideas where we unbundled the banking payment transactions from the bank accounts in some sense. And now there are entities which are just doing the payment, which are participating in payment artifact. Now, all these things which we have created, they are scalable to a billion plus population scale. They are inclusive. It is not, they don't exclude because they are highly digital. They are actually inclusive. They are interoperable. They are based on open standards. They are based on open APIs. And most importantly, they are frugal in the sense that they don't really cost. UPI transactions don't cost you anything. You transfer 1 rupee I transfer 1 rupee to Mr. Som Mittal, And then, that 1 rupee goes there, 1 rupee. I don't have to pay even a single paisa. So this is what is required for digital delivery of services. These are horizontal artifacts. There are two more things. One is that India has now 1.2 billion mobile connections. About 6-7 years back, we just had about 600 or 500 million mobile connections. We had just about 300 billion, internet connections. Now we have 700 billion. We have 600 million smartphones in this country, growing at the rate of 25 million per quarter. So and we have the cheapest data rates in this country. Of course, one can argue about the telecommunication crisis and all those issues, AGR related issues, but I'm not going into that. The fact of the matter is that today, India is the only country where people are watching films on the mobile. Data is so cheap. And we are consuming, the highest consumption data rate is 12 gigabytes per month per user. Now imagine US, it's about 4 gigabytes or 5 gigabytes. We are consuming our persons, our poor, countrymen, we as a country, we are pretty poor compared to the US per capita income and all that, but we are consuming twice the data which those guys in the US are consuming. So we may not have a great robust connectivity because we have fixed line connectivity are quite limited in our country. I must make that point clear, just about 20 million. But the wireless connectivity, the mobile connectivity has really proliferated, and we now have more or less every player is 4G. And we have ubiquitous in the village level everywhere, out of 625,000 villages, we have 600,000 villages have connectivity. So there is a connectivity. Now connectivity is required for any digital solution to be, become ubiquitous. That's a precondition in some sense. And India has that, satisfies that precondition. So one is, when the Prime Minister launched Digital India, he gave us 3 vision areas. One was digital infrastructure as a utility to citizens. And this digital infrastructure is connectivity broadly. So that's one part. Secondly, he said software and services on demand, which means we build software and services on top of this digital infrastructure. That's another part. Third part, he says citizens empowerment. So citizens must be empowered to conduct digital transactions. So today, that every ready wala, every thela wala is having a QR code on the thela. He's able to accept digital money. So this empowerment has happened. Making, doing a money transaction is as simple as making a phone call, even simpler than that. So that's something which has happened. One more thing which happened is essentially financial inclusion of people at a very massive scale. Today, using Aadhaar as a digital identity, people were able to open bank account. And Jan Dhan bank account, as you know, at our Prime Minister, he gave a clarion call for that. Now we have 82% of our adults in the country have got bank accounts, which means that there is a receptacle, and those bank accounts have become actually due to these bank accounts, we are able to do and unique identity. We are able to do digital direct benefit transfers at a massive scale. We are doing billions of transfers. Every LPG cylinder purchase is resulting into a, subsidy transfer to the eligible persons at the rate of 50 rupees per cylinder purchase, 50 or around that. So imagine we are doing in the LPG space itself, we are doing about 2 billion transactions a month, a year. That's the kind of digital direct benefit transfers we are doing. So this way, for example, in crisis Corona times, Prime Minister scheme for transferring money to farmers, we have done 500 million transactions into the farmer's account, what he called Kisan Samriddhi Yojana, Kisan Samman Yojana. So that's the kind of digital transaction infrastructure we have created. So this whole issue called JAM, which is Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile, which is actually a very powerful trinity, because Jan Dhan creates a receptacle, Aadhaar creates an address, and mobile creates a transmission mechanism, a communication mechanism. And this is turning out to be a really powerful trinity. So we have JAM. We now have many of these utilities which are able to, provide, enable many transactions. And this is actually the base on which we want to build what is called the National Digital Health Mission. So essentially, all the transactions will happen. When you contact a doctor, you are able to digitally verify yourself. Doctor is able to digitally verify himself. He is able to digitally sign your prescription. You are able to pay him digitally. Then you are able to share that thing digitally to a pharmacy. The pharmacy is able to deliver your vaccines or medicines or whatever. So this whole thing is enabled by these digital public goods which India has created. And this is what we have done is essentially we have created now a number of these, we are creating registries. So we are creating registry of facilities, registry of professionals, doctors, nurses, and other people, registry of healthcare facilities, registry of doctors, and registry of drugs, registry of pharmacies, labs, hospitals. These are things which we are creating, and that is the top of it. So top of the digital kind of base which we have created, and then on top of that, we are creating what is called unified health interface. And I'll explain that a little bit later, but on the topmost layer, you have the citizen-facing applications. So basically, you have applications, where somebody wants to buy drugs, there is an application for drugs, and somebody wants to contact people or contact a doctor, there will be an application for video conferencing and stuff like that. And there will be a multiplicity of applications, large number of applications, like you have applications in the payment space. Google Pay is there, Google Pay is there, Phone Pay is there, many other, Paytm. Everybody has joined the Pay UPI. Similarly, UHI will be joined by many players who will have applications, who will provide service to the people. And therefore, this unique health interface is actually a gateway which will allow access to these applications to the registries underlying therein. And the bottommost layer of what is called the digital public goods will enable all those transactions. So this is the broad architecture. Now, this basically, you think of this in a way, it's a platform, but it's not Amazon. It's not Amazonification of health services. Please understand that. Because these platforms are silos. These platforms have everything on their platform, which means they have the sellers on their platform, they have the buyers on that platform. So, for example, if you are Uber application, you will be able to get only Uber taxis, right? Similarly, if you are Amazon platform or Flipkart platform, you have that application, and then you will be able to search their platforms. What we are creating is actually a completely interoperable protocol-based platform. So in a way, think of it as a layer on top of internet, which is being created, which will be an inclusive layer, which is similar to saying that you may have any application, you may have Uber application, you may have Ola application, but you will be able to look at all the taxis, whether Uber provides, Ola provides, or whatever else provides. Even a single taxi wala also will be visible to you. So what we are saying, this will be a platform which will be a real level playing field platform. It will be a level, there will be no big or small, and it will be non-discretionary platform. It will not be, for the purpose of creating business. It will be, of course, operating on the payments and your overall business principles. But because this gateway is going to be a non-biased gateway. One of the things you must have heard is, in Amazon, you have some sponsored fellows, which means they are creating competition among their own sellers. So the sponsored search will be, first search will be sponsored guys. That's not going to be the case here. So essentially, we are creating a digital grid, which will be able to, create such kind of inclusive infrastructure. Let me also say this, we are creating a unique health ID for each person. from the patient side. So patient side, he will be able to search, book, and transact any kind of consultations or delivery of medicines or anything like that. He will also be able to have a look at his horizontal health records, which means we are creating a patient health record architecture whereby in a federated manner, the records will be there in each hospital wherever he has visited, but using an aggregation mechanism enabled by the health ID, he or she will be able to see all his or her health records and will be able to share with the doctor in a digital manner. Now that's a very powerful construct, because today he has to take all the basta of his things, to the doctor and says, मुझे ये बीमारी है, मुझे ये बीमारी है, इसका ये समस्या है, इसकी ये समस्या है. Now this will basically be enabled in a digital manner. So he will just go and through his mobile or whichever instrument, he will be able to share all his records to a doctor. And this will be completely consent-based privacy-preserving framework. So one need not be afraid of violation of privacy, because health records, as you know, are a very sensitive kind of data, which actually are there too. So that's something which we will preserve. So broadly, this is what I wanted to share with you on NDH. We share with you 2-3 more things. One is in the Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, the insurance scheme, the largest insurance scheme in the whole world, which the National Health Authority is implementing. We are actually, providing insurance cover to as much as 54 crore Indians of poor or middle class, lower middle class, income levels. We are providing an insurance cover of 5 lakhs per year per family, and that you will be surprised to know we have created a system which is completely paperless. There is no sheet of paper which actually travels in submission of insurance claims or the workflow where the insurance claims are just reimbursed or passed or rejected. So everything is digital. Everything is digital based. So that's another part which we are doing, and we are having about 800,000 admissions, hospital admissions per month. So that's about about a crore. Yesterday only we celebrated the 2 crore overall hospital admissions, and the Honorable Minister of Health launched that event. And I think at that rate we will just do 1 crore per annum. That's the rate, but I think we will accelerate that rate further. The other part which we created is COVID, as you know, the vaccination platform which we put together, and that we put together not in such a long time, that we put together in a matter of months. On 16th of January, the Honorable Prime Minister launched the vaccination program, and we made that application, and now that application records it registers people. It is people are able to book the vaccination slots. People get vaccinated, then they get the digital certificates of vaccination. India is one of the few countries which have created a digital digital vaccination certificate. So I think that's another thing which we have created. And today we have 550 million people on the platform. I think this is the fastest growing platform in a matter of over 6 months. We launched it on 16th of January, and today is 18th of August. In about 7 months, we have done about 500 million plus registrations and transactions on that platform. And this we will be repurposing it for actually using it for vaccination purposes in the country, overall immunization purposes in the country. So children's immunization, and then we will be able to tell the parents of the children that your second slot is of polio vaccine or polio drop is due and all that. So it will become a very, very friendly system. Of course, COVID itself is an extremely friendly system. It's very easy to operate, and anybody who has got mobile phone can actually create an account, do as many as 4 bookings and stuff like that. So I think, and last month we had in July, 5th of July, we had the COVID conclave, which was launched by Honorable Prime Minister, and you'll be surprised to know as many as 147 countries participated. Now, essential idea is the Prime Minister said that let's make it open source and let us give it as a gift to the countries whosoever want it. And now the Ministry of External Affairs and NHA and the Health Ministry, they are working together to actually deploy it to make it possible for those countries to get it. So I think we have done fairly well in that digital space. We might be poor otherwise, but I think we are quite rich in terms of data. The data consumption happens here. The digital platforms are being built here. There are lots and lots of startups who are coming in the digital space, and I think your conference is also going to discuss that particular role and that particular aspect. So I think we are in a very good, we have now perfected the art and science of developing such scalable, large scalable platforms. The Ministry of Commerce under the leadership of Mr. Piyush Goyal has now started what is called ONDC, Open Network for Digital Commerce, which actually we are also participating in that. And that will again bring about a completely new paradigm in the digital commerce. And we are looking forward to it. We are very excited I am very excited to be a part of that particular group. So with that, I'd like to conclude what I wanted to share with you. And I again want to thank Mr. Som Mittal in particular, because he was the one who said that I must participate in this. And I'm really very happy to be with you this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Sharmaji, thank you very much. I think this was an amazing. I just have one suggestion, request, question. CAHO represents almost the way we link up about 1,000 organizations that provide. These are small hospitals, nursing homes, mid-size, large size. Every one of them has a role to play in giving healthcare to our citizens. And as you could appreciate, these have also domain expertise of pharmacies, diagnostics, labs, etc. Given the need for domain along with technology, how do you think NDHM is going to leverage us, or how can we work together with you to ensure that we can accelerate NDHM together?
Well, that's an extremely wonderful question, Mr. Mittal. And I think you have perceived the real problem, which needs to be solved. And what we want to do is, we don't want to make it a win-lose situation. We want to make it a win-win situation. So hospitals and service providers, large or small, we all have to participate together, because otherwise this platform will be a vacuous platform. What is a platform if there are no players on the platform? So essentially, and we want to have an inclusive platform. You don't want to have some big hospital chains coming into the thing and everybody gets excluded. No. Now, what we are trying to do is, we are again going to build an ecosystem. So for example, currently the processes in these small, maybe a doctor couple led, let's say, a clinic or a small hospital. They may not have their processes digital, and probably they will feel very much, they will be very afraid to, move on to or making this change, because they're not used to this and they don't even see a value in it many times. And they think that this will probably benefit the patient, but not, this will be a burden on me. What we are going to do is, we are going to, bring about lots and lots of these innovators. We are going to create certain digital, artifacts which are broadly building, bare artifacts on which people can build solutions. So essentially, how do you ensure that your records become digital? How do you ensure that you have an access to a very cheap, sort of a place where you can put your data? How do you ensure that you become more efficient? All this will be a part of the digital health mission's journey. And actually, what we are going to do is, in the NDH, in the PMJY itself, where we have 23,000 hospitals in this country connected with us on the PMJY platform, we are again introducing a lot of digital, things. And believe me, many times people have that, we are just afraid of change, nothing else. Once you kind of absorb or once you get the change internalized, things become very easy. So initially we thought that, it was very difficult even to do a video conferencing. Today we are very comfortable with it. So essentially this is, and in fact, now we realize that video conferencing is better than the real meeting, where, you don't have to travel all the, in all the places. So I think this is the change which we have to bring about, and we have to bring about obviously taking everybody together, and that I think will be a big value. It will also help, by the way, once the platform starts operating, it will become a huge minefield of the data, because while we are not going to have any transaction related information, we will certainly have anonymized information relating to the nature of transactions. So that will provide a huge input to the policy makers. Then, many big players are developing solutions related to AI and machine learning. So AI and machine learning and expert systems, which will provide actually to doctors also, if you have an X-ray, probably now today, a machine can probably read and analyze an X-ray much better than even a doctor. These are the kind of intel. Now, this data, ultimately, all these AI and machine learning techniques don't work if you don't have data. They are the learnings. They learn from data. If there's no data, there's no learning. There's no improvement. There's no fine tuning. Now, this is something which is our greatest strength, because our greatest strength is numbers, and those numbers will provide the transaction-related data. You'll be able to deploy software as service, so people don't have to purchase softwares. They can actually do software as service transactions on this, and they will be able to provide better diagnostic techniques, better intelligence. Doctors ke liye, this will be very good. So all these benefits will happen, which are not visible at this point in time. It looks like what is there. You will be able to connect patient with the doctor, but that's only the beginning of it. That's only one part of it. There will be so many things which will happen out of this platform, which will be beneficial to the entire ecosystem.
Thank you very much,
I
Sharma.
hope I've been able to answer.
No, thank you very much. And on behalf of the CAHO executive, I'd like to offer that at the end of the conference, this is not just a conference, there are going to be learnings out of this. And if there are suggestions that come on for NDHM, I'm going to reach out to you. And on behalf of CAHO, let me assure you that we'll work with you to ensure that NDHM becomes a reality soon. Thank you very much, sir, and appreciate your joining us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mittal, and goodbye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.